Welcome to another episode of the Black Futurist Podcast. I'm your host, Brendan Moore. I'm just returned from Las Vegas for CES 2026. This recap is going to be different than some of the others you see. Sure, there are great gadgets to look at and see. You can see those all over the internet. But what we're going to get on this particular episode is perspective. I've invited friends who were, like me, invited to CES to talk with executives about the innovations of the year, what we're seeing, what we're not seeing, the implications of those things. And I want to talk about perspective. I want to talk about why things are happening, what it means for the future. So I've invited friends from different areas of expertise to come on and join us to talk about EVs, to talk about power solutions, to talk about the future of entertainment, the future of smart homes, et cetera, et cetera. It's a great episode. I'd love to hear your feedback. Take a listen. Black Futurist.
That's one small step for man.
Okay.
Focus up, Tankersley. I'm Brendan Moore. Who are you?
Hardie Tankersley.
So this is CES 2026. You and I toured different sections of the show. So
Mostly.
like I focused on one area. You went to like the west where typically auto was.
Correct.
Don't be pessimist, Hardie. Be reasonable, Hardie. What's some positive things that you enjoyed seeing?
Robots? Like, everybody's got robots. West Hall is more, my speech on it, West Hall is more like industrial robots, things that move equipment around.
Okay.
North Hall is more like humanoid robots that try to be your friend.
Yes.
Right? So that's kind of a big difference, but the industrial robots are cool. There's cool lifts. There's a whole Oshkosh booth that's about airport automation. Like, okay, cool. They got a robot that puts the wheel chocks in front of the airplane.
Okay.
They got a robot that collects the trash.
Right.
They have an electrified, they have big stuff, like the electrified airport emergency vehicle. It's like a
Saw
giant
that.
airport fire truck.
It looked like a Constructicon.
It does. It looks like a toy, except it's huge.
Yeah.
They have a harvester, like the John Deere harvester.
Yeah.
Is
Satellite
an
control.
enormous machine. So like the little kid in you is like, ooh, big machines. Wow.
Tim
look at
Allen?
the size of that thing. Yeah.
I happened to be catching a rideshare, and I was standing next to a guy who had an Oshkosh shirt on.
Oh.
So I said to him, listen, I'm sorry, I don't have a problem talking to strangers.
No, you don't.
So I said, I just want to know, when I was a kid, Oshkosh was the shirts.
Yeah.
Is it the same company? He says, no, it's not. It's the same. Apparently, Oshkosh
city.
is a town.
Yes, it's a place.
I didn't know
Yes,
that.
I've been there.
He said Oshkosh Bagash was that, and this is Oshkosh, the vehicle builder.
Couldn't they have named themselves more creatively?
I think
Is
so.
that they're out of ideas in Oshkosh? I'm going to start a company. What are you going to call it?
Oshkosh.
Right. But aren't there already 3 others? Are there? I don't know.
What else did you like? So you don't like the robots you do? Okay,
No, I do
robot
like
form
robots. I
factor.
like
R2-D2
big
versus C-3PO, which is superior.
Yeah, right. There's no right answer. It's like, what do you need it for? C-3PO is really good at language translation. R2-D2 is good at fixing stuff.
Okay, all right. I have
they're
a whole,
all-
as you
they're
say,
good
I
at
have a whole
different
speech
things.
on this, but
Yes,
please
I
go.
know. What else? I mean, I think the big news is that 5 years ago, CES was an auto show,
Yeah.
and now it's not. Like, there's no OEMs, there's no consumer car brands here. I think the big story is that there's like BMW out in the parking lot. They've got one car, the iX3. Like no concepts, no wacky color changing thing like
Right.
we've had before, no way out concepts. It's not the future. It's like, here's the iX3, it'll be here next year, you can check it out. And then in the convention center itself, none. The only
What about the Chinese
manufacturers that are
manufacturers?
here are the Chinese EVs, which are not available in the US
Right.
yet. So that's what I think is, like, for me, the big story is that, and this is what we're seeing around the world, the Chinese EVs are moving in and taking over the auto business. And they're also getting squeezed from the other end by the autonomous taxis. So the other hot things over there are Zoox and Waymo
Right.
and this new thing called Tensor, which are like loosely robo-taxis.
Yep.
And that's what people are gravitating to. So the old model of I go buy a car for a big chunk of money and it sits in the garage 23 hours a day, but it's a huge chunk of CapEx. We're definitely seeing a move to the model of just pull out your phone, tell it where you want to go, and something will come and get you and take you there.
I understand this and I get it, but it's also kind of scary because what happens when, like, at some point you could buy a car, own a car, pay it off, and all you're paying for is maintenance and insurance. And so you could just have the thing and pass it down to your kid when he goes to college, et cetera, et cetera. Now it's like if you can't pay the subscription, you can't go anywhere.
You can't go anywhere. You have to pay ongoing basis. So do you
Right.
want to pay up front or do you want to pay as you go?
Right.
And then it's just finance engineering. So what do you want to do? But I think we've seen like this generation that's grown up with this capability doesn't want to give up the convenience of being able to adapt your mobility to your specific need at the time. So
Right.
you need a bigger vehicle, you can just call a bigger vehicle. You need a cheaper vehicle, you just call a cheaper vehicle. You're making a short trip, you're making a long trip. It's much more scalable on demand than like I invest in a big piece of CapEx and it sits there and I have to use it for everything, whether or not it's the best fit for any given trip.
Who do we think is making these plans? Like, who's designed the future in this way that moved all these industries towards this model? Is there is it the boogeyman is is it the smart thing? Is it the smart
no,
move?
it's the fact that technology has enabled all these different forms of, in this case, transportation.
Yeah.
There's so many, much more variety because we have much more flexibility in manufacturing, in componentry. I think the revolution in automotive is also being driven by electrification because it's a much simpler product to build. There's much fewer parts in an electric car than there are in a combustion engine
Right.
car. The supply chain is more flexible, so you can create it in many more flexible formats. So you have this thing like the Zoox, which is a custom designed, optimized vehicle for robotaxi.
Loaf of bread
uses.
on wheels.
Yeah, it's a pod
Yeah.
with wheels in the corners. And so because of the flexibility of the supply chain and the componentry, you can afford to scale up a business that builds just those things. And I think that's new.
Yeah. So we're definitely growing new industry. I don't know, just to step back in the conversation for 1 second, I don't know what it means that the only car manufacturers here are Chinese car manufacturers who are showing cars that I cannot buy. And especially in an environment where, like, I fly drones, I have DJI drones, but I can't buy the next
Is
newest
DJI
drone.
not here?
They're not here because
Yeah, they've
the
been, like,
administration was
outlawed.
just like,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
we think they're a security threat because they have cameras and microphones.
Yeah.
But everything else here is cameras and microphones made in China also.
It's because you can't get them anywhere else.
So what I'm saying on that point is, if I can't buy my drone
Yeah.
from the Chinese company, are you going to
How
allow
am I
me to
gonna
buy
a
the
Chinese
$100,000 car?
Yeah, no, I think they're going to find a loophole. So the rumors are that Geely, which is the company that sort of announced they were going to do it, they own Volvo, they own Lotus, they own Smart, they own these other brands. One of the things that Volvo has is a manufacturing plant in South Carolina. So the theory is that they can, if they can figure out how to produce these things in South Carolina, they're a U.S. car.
Ah,
And maybe
Okay.
they'll sell them under a U.S. brand. Maybe they'll be Volvo, or maybe they'll create some other U.S. brand, but there might be a way for them to find a loophole in the regulations. If it's not technically made in China, there might be a way in for them.
I just hope that if they figure that out, I hope they also figure out my drones because I want mine back.
Right, you need a loophole for the drones. Why can't they just assemble them in Mexico and operate them? Or do what they're doing with TikTok, which is
Yeah.
we're going to sell the technology to an American, and they can operate it. See, look, it's American now.
Right. Hey, do you still keep a website going or a social channel, anything?
Little
Blog?
bit of things.
What is it?
Hardie.org,
What do you write about there?
HARDIE.org, or on all the socials, I'm just Hardie.
Right. What do you write about
What
on,
do I write
on the
about?
blog?
The stupid speeches that I have.
I have a speech about that.
I have a speech about that. So I'm I need to work on my blog post about my current rant about agentic commerce as not a thing that's going to happen.
Okay. Yeah, you like the contrarian. All the investment says otherwise,
That's
but
where
all right.
the interesting stuff is, right? The only way you can win is to be right when everybody else is wrong. If you're right when everybody else is right, you can't, like, this is what I learned, like, trading securities in the market, right? If you see the market going up and you buy in, it's too late.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? You've got to figure something out that nobody else has figured out. That's the only way to win this game. So being contrarian on occasion, you can't just like be contrarian all the time. You
Everybody
can't just
says
do the
yes.
opposite
Nope.
of what everybody else says, right? But you do have to find the corners where most people are just kind of not thinking it through. They're taking the accepted wisdom. When you can find those little corners where you find something that nobody else has, that's when you really make an impact.
Hardie.com, or is it Hardie Tankersley?
Hardie.org.
Hardie. Excuse
90s, me. When they invented,
I'm good for everybody. I'm .org.
Young people, when they invented the domain name system in the 80s and 90s, .com was for commercial enterprises.
Right.
.edu was for schools. .org was for nonprofits and personal domain names. Like,
I think you made up that last part.
The original plan of .org was where you put your personal
Somebody
domain
search
names.
that and give us something in the comments. I think he made
yeah,
that last
look
part
it
up.
up.
I think
I
.org was always like
challenge-
organization, like
challenge your
NPO.
research.
Anyway,
It was for anything
Hardie.org.
that's nonprofit, which is me, I guess.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brennan.
Eric, you and I just got back from beautiful Las Vegas. We were at the Consumer Electronics Show, and we did what we've done before, which is get paired with some executives to talk about the trends, do a whole lot of storytelling in tech, which was fun.
Yeah.
But a funner thing was happening in my book. And that is every time we weren't in front of customers, you and I found ourselves somewhere having an incredibly nerdy, fun conversation about robots.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there was no shortage of robots on the floor at CES this year.
Everywhere, running up and down the halls, boxing each other, playing ping pong, and climbing stairs, all kinds of good stuff.
That's right, because the vacuum robots, like your quote unquote Roombas of the world, can now dock. And this is a total sci-fi reference. So if you remember Aliens,
Yes.
there was a scene where they flew down from this big spaceship in a little spaceship and it just touched down enough to eject the ground rover and then take back off. That's what Roomba will do now. It'll
Nice.
roll to the dock thing. The dock thing will roll over to the stairs, which will climb the stairs and
Yeah.
let your Roomba off. And now you got multiple floors of robot vacuum action for your cats to enjoy.
That's right. That's right. Cats love that.
Okay, this is the whole point that began our conversation about robots and form factor.
Yes.
Which is, I think, where we start.
Yeah. Yeah.
I posit that it is idiotic for us to continue to invest as much time into recreating humanity with the humanoid robot form factor. Where does that take us in this conversation?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And this is, part of one of the spiels that I have been on for a while, but I still am because I'm a big science fiction nerd. And the thing is that science fiction has added wonderful things to my life, and it completely constrains some of the innovation that happens in the US and in the world, because we all look at, when we're young, Star Trek, even Johnny Quest, right? And definitely the Jetsons. It puts us in a box of what we think is possible, because in our little childhood brains, it still radiates that a robot should be a maid that has a little apron that can talk to me directly, serves me food, and gives me treats when I come home from school, right? That's what a robot is supposed to do and supposed to look like. And that form factor is horrible in the real world. And it causes us all kinds of trouble, and it causes compute issues, it causes energy issues, and at the end of the day, does not, it's not about innovation. It's about trying to fit into a preconceived notion of what success looks like before we even know what the heck we're doing.
I got so much for us here. We're going to start with one of the things that we were asking each other, which is, what is the definition of a robot? So I have it on the screen, of course. According to the dictionary definition, a robot is a machine capable of carrying out a complex series of actions automatically, especially one programmable by a computer. That's one definition. Especially in science fiction, a machine resembling a human being or able to replicate certain human movements and functions automatically. Another one is public servants that are expected to be mindless robots. That's kind of weird.
Robot. Anytime you have the word that you're defining in your definition, it's not a definition.
And then there's actually one listing here that actually has a picture of the Jetsons robot that you just described. And it says, a robot is an autonomous machine capable of sensing its environment, carrying out computations to make decisions, and performing actions in the real world. What do you think of these definitions?
So I think all of them are trash except for that last one. That last
The
one was
last
pretty
one.
close. That last one I think is pretty close. And I'll cop to it that our discussions push me to that endpoint where I think that last definition you gave actually talks about, where it's the idea of capable of sensing becomes something really interesting, and then making decisions on that, on those senses, I think is closest to the end. I've gotten, and the thing is, our discussions, I've gotten to the point now where I really think, and this is horrible to say because anytime you say this means that you don't know what you're talking about, but a real robot
Okay.
senses their environment, collects informations, makes unique decisions that it was not explicitly programmed to do. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where I argue with that. Why I think that first definition you read, that to me is just a machine, right? You
Yeah.
program it, it does what you want it to do. It, and it cuts and or stacks or whatever it is you want it to do. But it's not sensing, not making decisions. I think that's the differentiation in my head, and
Yeah. I
I'm
agree.
really set on that for at least the next 15 minutes.
Sweet. And that's perfect. I also want to give you kudos before we move forward, because your point about science fiction holding us back
Mm.
has definitely been recirculating in my thinking, because I've always spoken of it the opposite. I always said that Roddenberry, and you brought up Jules
Jules
Verne,
Verne, yeah,
imagined a thing and then gave it to us and gave it to our imaginations. And then our imaginations gave it to our scientists or internal scientists
Mm.
and engineers. And then we created the things that we saw that were imagined. So
Exactly
I
right.
always thought as science fiction pushed us, but you say not only does it push us, it also holds us back.
Right, right. And the thing is that it's one of those things. If you kind of step outside of it and you think about what a writer does, the best writers write about what they know. Some of the writers that wrote science fiction, Isaac Asimov is the best example, right? He literally was a scientist, and he
Mm-hmm.
thought in systems, and he thought in how do we solve the problems that we're having, right? And one of his best works, at least from my perspective, is called the Foundation Trilogy. And the idea was this guy had so much data, and literally before AI, and he kind of imagined what AI was, but he crunched so much data, and this is at a point in time where humans populated something like 25,000 different planets, right? So it's far in the future. So the amount of data he had was massive. He put it into an AI and said, "What's going to happen to society as we progress?" And so at each point, the AI told him, "Okay, there's going to be an inflection point 2,500 years in the future, and this is the information you're going to need at that point. Then 2,500 years in the future of that, there's going to be another inflection point." So that idea of, he's a writer, so it becomes a very different thing if you have a scientist talking about systems. Most of our stuff, and Roddenberry's a great example of that, Jules Verne is too, not scientists, but good storytellers.
Yeah.
And the thing is that I mentioned this to you as well, that one of my favorite classes I ever took, I have a useless English degree, but was a science fiction course. And the guy started the course, the professor said, "Science fiction, like all good writing, is helping us understand what it means to be human." And
Right.
so if you take science fiction and put it in that standpoint, these are not projections of the future for most writers. They're not ideas of what they think should happen. They're foils to help us understand, who are we? What makes us human? What makes good humans, bad humans? regular, complex, difficult humans, right? And from
Right.
that standpoint, if you look at it like that, that's a horrible way to start a project when you're going to build a robot. What makes us human? No, no, that's not it. The question should be, what is the core problem we're trying to solve?
That's right.
What are the systems? What are the mechanisms? What are the thought processes we have to go through to actually solve that problem? And
If
that's
I
the
can,
go ahead.
it's a perfect segue to one of my notes. I have copious notes based on all the things we've talked about. There was a company showcasing on the show floor at CES 2026. I think they were called Nuevo.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, I actually thought they were a robotics company. You let me know that they were actually an AI company, and they were just showing the robots as a part of, needing to have something that you can physically see on the floor.
Right.
But they had a video.
Yeah.
And in the video, their marketing video it zoomed in on a family on their front lawn. And the mother was there teaching the kids to play soccer.
Right.
And then it zooms out and you see the driveway and this humanoid robot pushing what we know as the modern day trash can, like, I will do the work while you play soccer. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm saying to myself, is the goal to get the trash down? Because why do we need for efficiency's sake, why don't we just build a trash can robot?
Right.
Right? Why don't we mechanize the trash can to do its job versus creating another thing in space? And so one might say, well, hey, then this robot will do multiple things. It's not just going to take the trash out. So then in the next frame, the family's doing something else, like playing with sparklers on, in the driveway. And then the robot,
as you do,
this robot has picked up a flower, like watering can with the spout, like the kind you see like your grandma had back in the day, not the garden hose.
That's right.
The robot has apparently filled up the water can,
Yeah,
and is now watering the flowers there.
Right.
And here's my point on all that. I think that in my book, we have to talk about, like, what is, as you mentioned, what is the end goal? Is the end goal to have the flowers watered and the grass watered? Then why do we need to have this physical thing?
Right.
Like, won't software and sensors handle that invisibly? We've already got sprinkler systems. Add better software to it so that it senses the season, the color of the grass, the right amount of water, puts in the supplements. It doesn't need to be a physical thing.
Right.
So the robot maybe just be an intermediary step, for profit's sake, between problem and actually end goal solution.
Absolutely.
What do you think?
And the thing is to that point, right near those guys were, the ping pong playing robot, the kickboxing robots, and all those other things. And one of the things I tried to point out when I got there to our conversation about what is a robot, you saw a robot playing ping pong very poorly. Not really good. But the thing is that it's not the semi-humanoid thing that has a hand that was hitting this ball. The robot, the majority of it was exactly what you're talking about, whereas there's sensors that were mounted in the ceiling all around that. And so once you look at the robot in a very different mode of what are you trying to solve, to your point, I would stop them. There was a group before them that were focused. Their main focus were scooters, right? Because I don't know if you know this, but scooters are coming, and they have been for the past, million years. But
Maybe, I
anyway,
think so.
but the
Right.
thing is that right next to it, they had a car, and I said, "This is the most advanced robot we've got on the show floor." And it's an automobile, because an automobile, to our earlier definition, can sense its surroundings and actually make decisions based on what it sees and what it senses, and it can change what you do. And the best robots were not in the North Hall, which is what we're talking about. They were in the West Hall, and they are, they're combines, they're planters, they are garbage trucks, they're baggage handlers at airports. Those are the most advanced robots we have in the world right now, and it's one of those things where once you shift it, you're like, oh, that totally makes sense. I understand what they're doing.
Exactly. One of my talking points as we were walking past the Sony Afila car, which is the partnership between Sony and Honda, my groups and I would have that exact discussion about form factor of robots. And I said, at the end of the day, the punchline is, and this car is a robot. This is the deal. It senses things. It has been programmed. It makes decisions based on an end goal, which is to help you get from A to B safely, and maybe efficiently as well, without breaking the rules, beyond certain tolerances. But you're riding in a robot at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you need to see it that way. That's
And to pile
pretty cool.
onto that, the thing that was interesting to me about that, and I'm not sure what the date was, but they announced the Fila at least 6 years ago, maybe farther than that. But as far as I know, it's not on the road. But one of the things that it also it makes some of the presentations, it's the Consumer Electronics Show, and they're trying to show you things. And one of the things they announced, I came up and they were in the middle of one of their announcements from the stage at Afila, and the woman was talking about, and we've partnered with creators. Then she mentioned some creator. They've now designed 10 different noises that the car will make when you're sitting inside it.
Okay.
And you're kind of looking at it going, again, to your point, this is the most powerful robot on the floor, bar none. And we're
Yeah.
gonna sit inside of it and make noises for the cabin. I don't understand what's going on here. This thing should if nothing else, it should be able to take out our garbage, right? It should be able to say, okay, fill up the trunk. We're gonna have the trunk lifted up and dump it into the passing robot that is collecting in my neighborhood.
Right.
That's what it should be able to.
And so to that point, we have been and will continue living inside of the robots.
Mm. Yes. Ooh,
right?
yes. Ooh, I like that.
You talked about the robotics that were on show at West Hall. A lot of that is like Hyundai talking about warehousing. And that's where I think the real intelligent view of robotics is warehousing. It's like, never mind replacing the human form factor inside of the warehouse so the robot can climb into a forklift and drive it around. Robotize, mechanize, and train and make the building intelligent.
Right.
Which is what's been happening. The floor is part of the robot. The ceiling's in the sensor. The whole building is a freaking robot.
Yeah.
Think scale,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The point of this robot is to move packages efficiently through and sort and pack and pick and all that stuff. The idea that you need a humanoid robot and the case use for that stuff is minute compared to when the building itself is moving and the shelf and the cabinet is moving and all that stuff. And that's really where we are. And I think that's part of the perspective I just want to make sure that people kind of refocus on when it comes to talking about.
Exactly. And the thing is that it again, coming from a kind of words-based education, meshing with designers that I've worked with before, engineers that I've worked with before, IT professionals that I've worked with before, shifting your mindset from the hubris of humans that we're the center and we're the epicenter and the apex of everything that's on the earth, shifting it to, well, really, you have two spindly legs. You have to have most of your mass is above your midline. So just standing upright is insane. And if you were trying to solve most problems that we encounter on the earth, that's not what you design. You design something very, very different. And even if you look at the natural world, the reason that one of the reasons that we're an apex predator is because we're one of one, right? Everybody else has at least 3 legs, 4 legs, and the best design ever, which is 8 legs, right? The spider, it really is the way that you would
Spider
design.
and octopus.
And octopus, exactly right. And look at the octopus. The one video, the movie about My Friend the Octopus or something like that, where this diver starts to work with this octopus. And what they can do with that form factor is incredible. They can get out of stuff. They can get into stuff. They know how to do things independently. It's fantastic.
Agreed on all. I have a story for you.
Hit me.
Not a story that I wrote, a story that I looked up because I just gave Hyundai big props on what they've been doing in warehousing and their investment in Boston Dynamics. But here's the contrary point. The contrary point is Boston Dynamics just released their Atlas robot, which is a very scary looking humanoid robot. It is definitely looks like the Lost in Space good guy / villain robot. And the only distinction between the good guy and villain in that is the color of the LED.
That's right.
Blue equals good robot.
That's right. Of course.
Red? If it flickers and goes red, you're in trouble. So I hope that they don't put a red LED even in the robot. But to the stories, Hyundai plans to deploy Boston Dynamics Atlas robots across global factories from 2028. Powered by Google DeepMind AI and backed by a US $86 billion investment. And that's a humanoid robot that's meant to go inside of their already mechanized warehouses. So that's interesting.
Right.
And it's also interesting that they feel like they can see far enough ahead to 2028.
Right.
2 years in terms of hardware may not be all that much, but 2 years in terms of like what's really possible software wise, I think we could do a whole lot in 2 years where some of the things that we've seen won't even be relevant. Some of the decisions
Exactly.
won't be relevant
Yeah,
in a couple of
exactly.
years.
Yeah. And, and,
Yeah.
and the thing is to that point, it's funny because one of the stops on one of my tours, occasionally I get to because it was kind of off to the side. This year there was all kinds of coffee makers on the floor,
Yeah.
and one of the ones that we've
Mm-hmm.
talked about a couple times, it's a big vending machine, and it has
Yep.
exactly the same coffee producing machine that you can get at home. And I usually see it when I'm in the lounges at airports, right? And
Or
all
the
it
car dealer.
was a robot hand that would push the buttons on the coffee machine, right?
Right.
And the way I talked about it to my people on my tour was I said, look, we can tell we're at an inflection point because we are developing middleware, meaning we have the main engine that is doing the thing that is brand new that we didn't know we could do before and does it a faster, better way. And we have the end output, but we
Right.
still need something in the middle that goes from this one to that one, and this hand is
Right.
middleware. And what you're talking about, what they've projected they're going to do, I think that humanoid robot is the middleware, because the argument comes back all the time. The reason we need humanoids is because we don't want to have to change our tools. And
Mm.
I'm
Mm.
just, because they can pick up a cup. To your point about the garbage can, it's got handles on it and all these other things that has this middleware. But anybody who has watched some of our latest science fiction, if you go to Wakanda, the person that was their biggest enemy had arms that he could take off and switch out with different
Right.
weapons on them.
Right.
That's actually a fantastic thing. But the idea that it's going to be in a humanoid form for any time period of all is crazy.
Right.
And one of the things you talked about, I think their name is Neuro Robotics. One of the things
Yeah.
that I liked about stopping there was they were one of the few places where they had non-humanoid robots that were more than just
Mm-hmm.
boxes that went around on the ground, right? And you're talking about the industrial uses. When you look in warehouse, most of them are boxes that look like advanced Roombas that run around. This one was a
Right.
box, but it had kind of a loopy form on it that you could put anything on it. You could put an arm on it, you could put a duster on it, you could
Right.
put a tray on it, you could do all these different types of things, but it didn't look human. It didn't look scary. It didn't look like a spider, so it had some limited functionality, but it was something you could see working into human environments without having to be human and using all of its power and its compute to stay upright on two crazy legs.
Exactly. I agree wholeheartedly. So, Eric, two things. Number one, wrap it up and give me what is your thesis on the modern view of robotics? How should the next innovator be thinking about robotics and what they should be producing? And then two, how can people find you?
Oh, great one. So starting on the first one, where should we start with human robotics? And we're in a great place. We're in a great place, I believe. And I don't want to condemn the entire, I'm sure that Boston Robotics, this is not all they're showing, right? How many dogs
Yeah.
did we see that are exact ripoff of the dogs we've
Yep.
seen for the last 6 years, right? And how many humanoids have we seen? So the first thing is really lean into that design thinking process of start with a well-defined problem. Once you define it the first time, understand that it's not narrow enough. Make it more specific, more pointed. Stay after that, and don't be afraid to try some of these other solutions to really get the best thing. Part of that best thing will be acceptance from humans. I don't expect to see spiders out there, right? If that was in my grandma's house, because they keep on wanting to take care of my grandmother, which I appreciate, but
Yep.
if she had a spider in there, there'd be issues. So figure out something new, something different, and really, really let your mind go. The second thing is don't try to do what a lot of them do, especially when they're doing announcements. And again, it's the Consumer Electronics Show. They're trying to make a show. And they're saying, we're deploying all of these humanoid robots into all of our factories.
Yeah.
be specific, just try and fix a problem for a year. A year is a long time in this stuff right now,
Mm.
and really, really
Yeah.
focus on that and kind of lean into, I think, what some of the groups were doing on the platform. Amazon and AWS announced the idea that they want to be kind of the operating system for robots, and so
Yep.
that everybody can plug into it and you can gives you the freedom to do whatever you want. I think those platforms, it's not just going to be them. It's there are a couple of people on the floor that are doing that. Siemens is doing something like that. You talked about the neuro universe, and one of the things they're doing as well is trying to make it so that we have a shared intelligence across these things, so we can design any kind of implement that we want to, whether it's a robot-ish sort of a thing or it's a garbage can that dumps itself, right?
Right.
So these platforms that allow all these people to do other things. And I love science fiction as much as anybody. Step away. They're writers. They're really good writers, some of them, but let go of your childhood imagination and step into what am I actually trying to do right now. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It does. Before we go to your contact information, are you also a fantasy writing
Oh yeah.
fan?
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So Star Wars is within your
Oh,
wheelhouse.
absolutely. Star Wars and The Hobbit, you
Would,
bet.
would you describe Luke Skywalker's replacement hand as robotic or mechanical?
Ooh, it's not a robot. As far as we've seen him use it, it's not a robot because it literally, when he first put it in, and the robot that was helping him, who is a robot, poked his hand, and you saw it articulate his fingers and the
Right.
the tendons in his wrist go. So I think
Yeah.
I think that's just a machine with a program.
There you go. It's a mechanical hand for sure, not a robotic hand, because it should not be autonomous, in which case then it would be the Thing from the Addams Family.
That's right.
And
That's right.
maybe leave at night and go do things.
Or it's Peter Sellers from How I Learned to Love the Bomb, where he's the professor and his hand attacks his throat and tries to kill him.
Now I got to look it up. I don't have the reference.
Oh, it's
How do
good.
we find you? How do we find your work? Where do you want people to go?
So I'm Eric Hunter. I'm at a company called Logic and Zeal. We're a consumer insights and marketing firm. And logicandzeal.com is where I am. And you can find me at ehunterny on Instagram and all the other socials. And yeah, there you go. That's me.
Thanks so much for joining today, sir. I
Absolutely
appreciate the
love it.
time we had last week and looking forward to the next several times we get together and talk smart stuff.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Brendan. Appreciate it.
All right, Tim Hanlon. Finally, I get you to sit down.
I'm relaxing. We are in the midst of CES 2026.
Yeah.
It's nuts, as always.
Nuts in a good way or nuts in a bad
Yeah,
way?
it's in a good way. It's actually kind of cool this year because as we're recording this, we're in the midst of the sort of finally rehabbed convention center. And
Yes.
it's
Yes.
a lot more airy. The lighting is so much better. And
Beautiful.
whether it's the same amount of people, even a little bit more, it feels like it's just more,
I agree.
it's less taxing.
It is. The light is lighter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does feel good.
Yeah.
But aside from the building, which is nice, what about the tech inside it?
There's plenty of it, and you and I have seen it for years and years, and in some cases it's brand new stuff, which is cool, and in some cases it's more of the same, but that's also the dynamic of the show, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the iterative nature of this, right? So we've seen so many different technologies that have taken a number of years to kind of mature, to become real, to become real productized. For example, the Oura ring, like you and I saw that 3-4 years ago, prototype to first generation to second generation. Now, I mean, I just bought my daughter one for Christmas at Costco with the extra battery pack, of course. That's the extra Costco benefit.
Yeah.
And that's sort of how these things progress. If they start to stick, the ideas get funded,
Right.
they actually become real product. I think glasses are the next real things poised to be that next kind of thing.
They've made a step forward, by the way, in the tech for wearable glasses. Now we've seen that they can do things in your field of vision, like translation, subtitles on the person you're talking to, and teleprompter use. But to the point of the Oura ring, I was thinking about this earlier. I have an Apple Watch. I have to charge this thing like every 48 hours. Meanwhile, the Garmin watch, it's like a watch. It stays charged. Why is there such a huge disparity between things like the Oura ring and the Apple Watch versus older tech that just is stalwart and lasts forever? Why can't we find the battery solution that allows us to actually use
I think
the
a
thing
little bit
long?
of it is a design issue where a watch, right? I'm still old school with the actual,
Yeah.
is focused on one thing and one thing only, and it does it really, really well,
Yeah.
right? Whereas you get into the Apple Watch, you're trying to do multiple things passably well, and arguably you want to get better and better incrementally, and that's what kind of the development cycle and stuff. I'm more fascinated with, I call it sort of the battle of the OS systems, right?
Yeah.
I see everything now, having grown up in the television world and seen the streaming thing and advised a lot of clients on all that kind of stuff. I see almost everything as an OS or an operating system perspective, right?
Okay.
So when we look at wearables like the Oura Ring, right, or these glasses that we see in the hallways this year, I'm thinking about like who's going to power those things. Are they going to be done by the originators of the glasses themselves, or are there going to be intermediaries all the way up to a Google, Apple, or Facebook, Meta, whatever,
Right.
that program for these things, like the apps, if you will, for these things.
Right.
It's also fascinating to see too as these monoline technologies evolve, right? The Oura Ring being one of them, right? The desire for certain entities to be open or partnered versus not is a really interesting dynamic. I'll give you an example. One of the booths we go to is Abbott, right? Abbott Labs,
Yep.
right? They've been here. They want to showcase that they obviously big in
Freestyle
medical
Libre,
stuff
yeah.
and the Freestyle Libre and the glucose monitoring, right? That's a big deal for them, right? And in many respects, that's like an operating system. Now, I bought my daughter, who's a type 1 diabetic, an Oura Ring this year, and she uses her Apple Watch for all the other kinds of stuff, including, and she's got a glucose monitor though.
Yeah.
She uses Dexcom, right, chief competitor. But she would love and frankly expect at some point that Oura Ring to have that glucose monitoring in it. Now, that ain't happening anytime soon because Abbott is certainly very protective of this, if you will, dedicated operating system around monitoring, right? Same probably with Dexcom. So is Abbott going to want to partner with an Oura or an Apple Watch that ecosystem is more generally available? Or are they going to kind of say, no, you've got to come to us, right? So it's to me, the fascinating part of all of this is the ethical and medical benefits of such,
Right.
and the business realities of such, right? And I got to tell you, both of those are very much locked horns in terms of where the next step is. I think, same thing in the car, the auto, right? You go to the West Hall.
You beat me to it. I was going to say, we're having an operating system conversation, go to the cars because
And it's
CarPlay.
weird because 10 years ago, I think this is before you and I were doing this stuff together, we're really at the same place, right?
Yeah.
It's still the auto operating system from each manufacturer versus the all things to all people with their phones in the Android Auto and the CarPlay, Apple CarPlay.
Let's describe the problem first, right? Problem first, you go to a car store, EV, and you love it, you want to drive it, and then you figure when you get in the car, you can just put your phone somewhere and it'll connect via Bluetooth, and there you go. I have Google CarPlay or Apple CarPlay, so I have all my phone things on the screen. But that's a problem for the auto manufacturers, and why?
Well, I think right now it's really interesting to ask consumers which they prefer, right? I think, from a personal media perspective, including phone, including Spotify playlists, including all of the personal things that I know and need my device to be during the course of my day. The car is just one other place that I'm in or with in a normal day, right? So I think there is an easier lift for that operating system to kind of be dominant in any environment, whether it's a car or otherwise, right? Now, that said, every end point media touch point, right, has to have its own operating system, right? So the TV ain't gonna let you bring that into the system, and the car doesn't seem to be wanting to do so either. The problem though is that the consumer really wants it to be simple and straightforward, and I'm not sure when GM 3 months ago says we're not gonna kind of play by the CarPlay and Android Auto kind of world, I'm not sure that's a great move because that's very anti-consumer.
Yeah.
For those who want that kind of benefit.
You want our car, you take it the way we give it to you.
And look, if you travel and you rent different car brands and stuff, every single time it's a different operating system.
Right.
And they all have their little idiosyncrasies.
Right.
Mapping is a great equalizer, right? I mean, the GPS and all these different cars and stuff, they're very different. Some use TomTom, some use Garmin, and if you use Google Maps, like as you walk as well as in your, it's at least consistent.
Right.
Right? So
Yep.
I don't know where the answer is, but I'm not sure walling off one's vehicle is the right answer. And it's weird because 10 years ago we were having this very same discussion and battle, and here we are still now in the same spot where everybody wants to be their own operating system.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I don't think consumers can grok multiple operating systems just to get through their day.
Speaking of operating systems, I went and saw Samsung last night. And, you know, I don't have a smart TV. I'm still a dongle guy. I have an Apple TV that plugs in.
All right.
If I go to a hotel, sometimes I bring it with me, plug it in, whatever. I mean, I have my setup and I take it with me.
But the
I like
smartness
that.
comes with you with that, right? So
Correct.
you're getting those benefits.
But the TV itself is just a screen to me
Right.
at my home. It's
Sure.
not the TV operating system. But I go to Samsung last night, and I'm aware because my mother has a Samsung Smart TV that they have a Smart Things app
Yep.
on your phone. And I'm telling you, it was overload for the amount of in my life that Samsung wants to be if I have one of their devices. Hey, you have our Smart Things app because you have the TV? Well, now we can do brain scans for your elderly parents with the TV using the app. Oh, and now if your pet seems sick, we can do diagnosis on your pet. Like, you guys want way too much.
So you're saying it's overreach?
It's too much.
Yeah.
It's super overreach.
Well, it's also not only overreach, it's also you're either making a dedicated commitment or an unwitting commitment to an operating system, if you will.
Right.
And look, I'll tell you, I mean, I have a Samsung Android phone, right? It's a long story. And of course, every other person in my family has Apple products. It's interesting. It's been a lot easier for me to cast stuff from my Samsung phone to my Samsung TV set.
Oh, there you go. Samsung
You know,
to Samsung, right.
it's interoperable. I don't know. I think at the end of the day, interoperability is generally a more noble goal.
Yeah.
But the business logic and economics seems to be counter to that. And I think consumers get caught in the midst of all of that, right?
Definitely.
So for every step forward, we take a step or two back because of business needs, investment returns, technical realities. And unfortunately, that's an inhibiting factor. I mean, ultimately it washes out, and you got to give consumers more credit than we give them because they always find workarounds, right?
Yeah.
Oftentimes to the detriment or to the consternation of these companies who spend so much money trying to create these beautiful ecosystems
Right.
and operating
Yep.
environments, right?
Yep.
Consumers are going to consumer. They're going to figure out their ways around it because at the end of the day, they want to use it their way.
There's a geographic component to that too. I had a tour 2 years ago, and on that tour were a couple of Korean citizens. We went into Samsung, and they were so involved and so engaged in every other part. We walked to Samsung, they just, what's wrong with you guys? They goes, where we live in Korea, when you rent an apartment, it comes with all this stuff in it automatically. It's in here already, right? So I don't need to see any of this stuff. So all I say is that American consumers are going to consumer, and we're going to rig around things, and we're going to get what we want per se. But maybe, nationalism plays in a role in some of these offerings where it's like,
maybe.
I'll take what you gave me.
Sure, but it's interesting. I mean, you could say the same as Samsung is for Apple. Apple is an ecosystem as well.
Yeah.
It interoperates really well. I can't FaceTime my kids because I've got an Android phone. I mean, I can at least do the MMS thing now more elegantly, but
Yep.
that was also walled off for a bunch of years.
Yeah.
So we'll eventually get there. People will figure out ways to make that stuff work and stuff. But, look, at the end of the day, tech is driven by investment. Investment is driven by returns and expectations. Sadly, I think it's always about business first and everything else later. Mm-hmm. Consumers are looked upon as consumers in a very clinical way, and I think it's the winning strategy is to look at consumers as human beings who have complex needs that aren't always solvable by technology and could be solved better by technology if given more flexibility and more connectivity to what's really going on in their lives. And by the way, that may not be fixed, right? That might change during the course of a day as one goes through certain emotions and work and fun and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So if technology is ever going to make people's lives better, it has to be much more adaptive to to human needs, not consumer.
This is always, in my friend circle, this has always been the argument for Android versus Apple because of all the options that you can toggle on and off. And my friends will say, well, you guys are just sheep. You just take what's accepted. I can change this, that, and the third. And in my life, I was like, I don't want
a lot of work.
I don't want the options. I just want it to work every time. That's my point.
Sure.
Right.
It's a lot of work.
Thank you for that. Question for you. You do have a creative output and a published output. Where do people find you online or in the media world? Where do you want them to tune
by
in?
day, it's the day job is consulting and advising, investment-wise as well as strategically, in the technology and media space. That's called the Vertere Group, V-E-R-T-E-R-E, verteregroup.com. It's Latin, as you know, which means what?
I don't know.
To spin, to turn, to change.
Okay.
When in doubt, use a Latin word. It's usually easily trademarked.
I was looking for the root. I said, I don't
Hint.
have it. Where's the root?
That's verteregroup.com, and LinkedIn, you'll find me there. By night and by weekends, my hobby, which is becoming more of a...
I am Batman.
Yeah, or a job maybe, or maybe people are hooking into it. It's really cool. It was a side project designed for me to learn how to do podcasting. It started about 7.5 years ago. It is called Good Seats, still available. GoodSeatsStillAvailable.com and wherever you get your podcasts. It is a podcast. It is devoted to a niche of sports. It's sports history and culture with a bent towards things forgotten.
Yep.
Leagues, teams, defunctness, and otherwise. Just love to revel in what used to be curiosities from dead leagues and teams and all that kind of stuff. Just fun times, and it takes sports in a non-serious manner. And it's basically, we do hot takes on dead teams. It's great.
I love that you enjoy it.
It's an acquired taste, but it's a lot of fun. Keeps me off the streets. And again, I've learned a skill, so I do podcasting. It's fun, and it's a good diversion.
Fantastic. Hey, man. Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure, man.
It's great.
As always, please subscribe to the Black Futurist Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. It's youtube.com/@theblackfuturist. You can follow me on social @BeMore, BEMOR, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you soon.